All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Super 7 times FwooshCast edition. And this time we are back with Kyle Wlodyga, designer at Super 7 and Mighty Morphin Power Ranger super fan. Is that okay for me to say? Can we say that?
I guess so.
Yeah.
There are. I'm not going to pretend that I know everything because I don't. I feel like every time I learn something about Mighty Morphin, I lose something about Mighty Morphin, and I'm at max capacity for my Ranger knowledge here. And the problem with that though is that I don't know what I lost until I need it again.
Well, that's what you have reference material for, right?
Yes,
But
exactly. Yes.
Your humble nature, it's beneficial to us all because it's we are here to talk about primarily Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Ultimates. I don't have the voice effect like Robo does.
Yeah, have him put that in post.
Yeah, exactly.
Put himself into him screaming it.
Series 2. Series 2.
Two.
It seems like we were just talking about Series 1, and we are now in the middle of the Series 2 pre-order. Exciting stuff.
We are. It's moving real fast, but that's good because that means that full team of Rangers is going to be on your shelf quicker than you know it.
Wow.
So very exciting stuff.
Well, since the pre-orders open right now, I just thought that maybe we could go through and kind of talk about each one of the individual figures
Sure.
as we move along that's available. So, everybody can get a little bit more background on those, and we can spend some time on some specific things. But before we do, I'd like to try to bug you a little bit since this is Series 2. And the Series 1 pre-order ended last summer. I think we'll just say that. Do you have kind of a status update on where you're at in the process of the Series 1 development?
Yeah. So they're at the factory now. We have seen outputs. We are pretty much ready to start tooling, I think, within the next week or so. So that's very, very exciting. That's one step closer to sweet plastic in your hands, right?
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And I know every series and every individual figure is different, but getting to a certain point in Series 1, does that kind of help out with the process for Series 2 and beyond too? Do you kind of learn some things and get through some things with an initial series with any license like this, and then ride that a little bit? Mm-hmm.
Definitely, especially because people who are fans of our Ultimates will know. It's very obvious that the Rangers are sort of a very different body type than what you're used to in the Ultimates line. So there's some engineering that needs to get done, making sure that those proportions can stay accurate while still maintaining all of the articulation that people are looking for and the aesthetics, right? And with I don't think it's a surprise to anyone either, but with a property like Power Rangers, it's very toyetic in that you can use a lot of similar parts across multiple Ranger characters and stuff. So getting all of those kind of bugs squashed out early just sets you up for success with later waves and other characters with similar body styles.
Cool. All right. Well, speaking of later waves, I guess Series 2 is a later wave than Series 1, but it is current, it is present, it is right now. So I think what I would like to do is just kind of pull up Series 2 right there on the Super 7 website where they're available for pre-order right now and talk about these guys.
Sure, man.
So
where do you want to start?
Well, I think first I'd like to start with kind of something overall with these, and that Series 2, even though the characters are very different, obviously, from Series 1, I feel like we're already establishing a little bit of a pattern here. We've got a couple of Rangers, a couple of bad guys, and then a Zord, right? And I understand that Power Rangers is a rich property with a lot of characters, and we may not be able to carry a pattern like that all the way through. But is this something that you're kind of setting up here at the beginning to kind of establish, a footprint as far as waves go overall?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. There is an expectation of this is when I'm throwing down my $300 or whatever it is for a full wave of these. It's this is what I expect to get for that cash, right? And obviously, when we started with wave one, we didn't give you all 6 Rangers at one time. It was, here's 2 Rangers, here's some villains, and here's a Zord. And we're trying, we do that kind of as a promise to be like, look, there's such a breadth of characters. You're gonna get them all. Just if you get on this train and take the ride with us, you won't regret it.
Sounds great. Well, two Rangers in series 1, 2 Rangers in series 2, and I figure since this is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, let's start with the actual Rangers themselves, and let's jump into the Red Ranger first.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like if anybody is going to really be called the anchor of this series, it would probably be the Red Ranger. What do you think?
I would call him perhaps the second most popular Ranger.
Okay,
right.
Fair enough.
And Green Ranger.
Yeah.
He was the only Power Ranger I dressed up as a kid for Halloween. Was the red one.
Really?
So yes, 2nd grade. I had to sneak watching Power Rangers when I was a kid because my parents thought it was too violent. But I got to have all the toys. I got to do all the role play items, all of that stuff. So I was big into it, and Red Ranger was my guy. As I've grown up and grown older, I realized that there are some, as rad as the Red Ranger is being the leader, there are other really cool characters too.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty partial to the Green Ranger, as you can kind of see there, but Black Ranger has always been a big one for me too. So I'm digressing immensely here.
Well, it's important to get the leader out there, and it's funny because as far as that goes, this is what struck me is that this kind of matches up with the Ninja Turtle pattern too. Is that Leonardo didn't come out of the gate right in series 1 either. He was in series 2, so it's like I don't know if that was intentional or not, but we're picking up the breadcrumbs a little bit here.
I don't think it was, but literally as you were talking about the leader and being wave 2, I was like putting that together too. I was like, I want you to arrive at that bus stop with me, and you did. So absolutely wonderful.
Well, let's talk about him because you would think that by now I would be used to, because I mean, I order most of, if not all of the Ultimates figures across various lines, is that I should be used to the amount of accessories and add-ons and things that these figures come with by now. But every time a new series kind of drops for pre-order, I'm still kind of surprised at some of them with how many accessories they come with. And series 2 of the Power Rangers overall is really a good example of that, because I mean, I can't even fit all of them on my screen at the same time, my man.
Well, that's to me, that just says we're doing our job correctly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's the ultimate versions. We want to give you all of the stuff you could possibly ever really want for this kind of character, and then some, right? So every version of the Blade Blaster, the Dragon Dagger, the Morphers, all of that.
Well, and that includes likenesses of 2 different characters, because I'll tell you, I appreciate that you guys are doing this now. What for 3 out of the 4 Rangers so far, but you don't have to, because it's kind of well, there were 2, right? But what's kind of the thinking in making sure or making it important to include that all in one release?
For me, I think it's part of the umbrella brand of Ultimates. It's the ultimate version. You're going to get every part, every accessory you could think of for that character. But for me also, I feel like I think that there's a lot of nostalgia and love for that original team, Jason, Trini, Zach, Billy, Kimberly. But I personally, I don't think I was a kid. Like it started in 93. I don't think I started watching till 94 or 95. And that means that like I wasn't like as much as I knew that original team. Like I very much remember when Jason, Zach, and Trini went off to the World Peace Assembly or whatever it's called, and then Rocky, Aisha, and Adam came in, and those were your Rangers. And I feel like they kind of get underrepresented, or they're the reissue. They come later. They're a convention exclusive. They're something different, and not really shown on an equal playing field as that original team, because both of these actors, the Rocky and Jason, both of these characters have contributed to what makes the Red Ranger so great, and we wanted to celebrate that.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to win over a fan base if you're not G1 or original trilogy or however you want to refer to it. But you know, I know that right now we're kind of in a state of renders and whatnot. But something that I noticed, you know, with these likenesses is that even from the first series to this second one, it seems like more detailed, like they're getting sharper or something like that. What's the challenge? Because to me, I would think that, yeah, you got to work out you know, articulation and engineering and stuff when you're making an action figure, but when you're basing something off of like a real live human being, what's the biggest challenge with that, and what do you always make sure that's like your priority when dealing with stuff like that?
I mean, obviously, one of the biggest challenges is always likeness, and I'm not deaf to internet comments. I hear, you know, everything that people say, and I read most of it, probably to my own detriment. And you know, I would say that, you know, a lot of it has to do, like, what some of the issues that people are seeing here has to do with, you know, the render, which we're still kind of figuring out that process. We've only been doing renders for Ultimates for, I think, less than a year at this point, so we're still figuring out those processes and making those work for us. And each time we have a project, each time we have an Ultimates project with renders, we learn something new, we improve on our processes and make it better each time. And I think that you're kind of seeing that where, you know, from wave 1 to wave 2 here is, you know, we're getting better texture maps, we're getting, you know, better material maps and displacements and that kind of stuff that are gonna, you know, really take that to the next level and give you a better glimpse of what your final product will actually look like. So.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of, you know, I talked to Brian in you know, these settings quite often, and we talk about kind of the Ultimates aesthetic when it comes to the balance between, you know, form and function. And so with the Power Rangers, you already touched on it, that, you know, these aren't the big bubbly muscles of like Conan or the Thundercats. They're much more lithe and realistically proportioned, and the articulation works in with this. And on the Rangers, I think it's a little bit more obvious, but can you kind of walk us through a little bit in terms of, you know, how some of the articulation choices are made with like the elbows and the abs and things like that? Because I mean, they pretty much wear skin tight costumes, right? So it doesn't leave a whole lot to the imagination.
Exactly. And that does like pose a unique challenge. Just because, you know, with those big muscles and stuff, you know, you have a little bit more plastic to cut into and to move around with, and a little bit more forgiving, right? Each figure that we make poses their own unique challenges, but like I had said, just because these guys are kind of like a unique body type for us, we had to make some decisions that we realize not everyone's going to agree with, but they are in line with what's been established with the Ultimates kind of aesthetic and then the line over the entire lifetime of the line. So I mean, it has the full range of articulation in the neck, you know, as a ball joint, and it's got a disc on it so we can look up or look down. You'll notice that when I talk about articulation, I usually do the actual movements myself.
I'm right there with you.
I realize I get made fun of a little bit for doing that, but you know, in college we had a saying, when in doubt, act it out. If you're not sure how something's going to move, do it yourself.
Well, just don't try to do that elbow on a 360 at least. All right, I don't want any dislocation on here tonight.
I don't know, when I'm posing my figures, if I'm trying to do something, I'll pose it like, I was like, oh, well, a human can't do that, so that's why it's unnatural, right?
Yeah.
So like I said, ball joint at the neck, there's an ab crunch there, so you can get nice little forward movement, just like wave 1 bodies, which are very similar. There's a ball joint at the waist too, so you get even more kind of lean back.
So down seated in the belt area.
Yeah. And then ball joint shoulders, bicep swivel, single joint elbows, and then the wrist articulation with the interchangeable hands. You'll also see that there's interchangeable arms for the dragon shield band and that whole aesthetic. And then thigh swivel, single joint knees. There's a boot cut as well, and then nice and generous ankle pivot that we're kind of famous for.
Yeah, and that one's very, very important for dynamic posing, because if you can't get a figure flat-footed, good luck getting it to balance, right?
Exactly.
Obviously. So
Exactly. Another thing on that is, if you look at it, you can see that the discs are kind of visible from the front. That means that you're going to have a lot of forward movement too, which is really good for those dynamic poses
yeah.
that you expect a ranger to be doing. Quite a few of our ultimates don't necessarily have that kind of range, so we really wanted to build that into it.
Yeah. Cool. Now you mentioned thigh swivel. Is that something that will be cut in, or is it seated somewhere that I can't see it?
It's seated somewhere you can't see it, because
Cool.
The underwear piece,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it, is
Just let me point right in here, right? So we can talk about that.
This video is now demonetized.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that whole piece is going to be soft plastic, so that won't affect your articulation at all.
Cool. Well, you know, talking about accessories and the glamour shots, you guys are doing a lot with glamour shots too. I was thinking about the Power Rangers one is that the way that you guys did it with all of these, the backgrounds and things that are used, they've got that kind of aesthetic quality of, it's not grainy, but slightly out of focus or whatever, just like the original show. So
yeah,
it's easy to tell that you're paying attention to things like this.
Yeah, like I was saying, we're presented with new challenges for each render project, and the challenge this time was like, make it look like they're in the show. How do you do that?
Yeah.
So the lighting and the color temperatures and the film grain and the setting. Those of you who have a keen eye will notice the command center in the background on the cliffs there, where Zordon lives. So we had a lot of fun with these guys. So I appreciate you noticing.
Yeah. It's like it almost feels like they're on the same set, the way that this lighting, it looks like lighting, but it looks like almost studio lighting back there with the harsh shadows and things like that. I like it.
Yeah, because the actual natural lighting's in the back, but all the floodlights that they have out in the daytime are in the front.
Yeah. Cool. And here's the pack out, which the packaging obviously matches, but I know that we are keeping this on Power Rangers, but since I just had Slithe from the Thundercats delivered, I think about this because, man, are you going to do some of the foiling on these packages? Because I think it looked really slick.
Absolutely. Yeah. The foiling and the embossing, making it a very, it's my favorite compliment that I get, even though I have nothing to do with it, is when people say we make it very difficult to throw away the boxes. That is not my department. Our packaging team does an absolute incredible job, and I always pass those compliments over to them.
Yeah, please do, because I'm sitting here now, because my Ultimates collection overall has gotten pretty healthy over the last year or so, and I've got these empty boxes sitting over here, and it's like I just can't do it.
Look at that, a pile up right there.
Yeah. So, well, it's hard to get rid of it because, like you said, with the embossing and the foil on this and everything, it's like the design, it's almost leading my brain. It's like I know where these elements are going to be, and it's going to look.
You're going to need to keep all of the Ranger ones because each coin is going to be on each box.
Yeah. Dang.
And that's your display right there, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, better in the basement with the rest of the collection than in the recycling bin. That's what I say.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, cool. Red Ranger. Anything else that you want to hit on specifically for him before maybe we switch over to the Pink Ranger?
I guess I've seen some people be confused about the toyetic accessories. That is the all silver sword you see there, and then the all white blaster. Those are direct homage pieces to the original Bandai toy line. Like they even have the holes in the handles for where the peg on the hand would plug in.
And you did that with Series 1 too.
We did, yeah.
It's so
continuing the toyetic trend.
It's like the sprues with the turtles, right? It's like if you want those unpainted swords or bow staffs or whatever, they're right there.
A little bit of that, and it was like, oh well, we can't really do like a toyetic head sculpt like we did with the turtles because it's just the helmets, right? Or if the toyetic helmets, because Bandai made beautiful toys back then, I think they would, if they were so close to what the actual helmets look like. I think if we made them now, it would look like an error. So that's why we went with the toyetic kind of weapons and accessories, just for that kind of that hit.
Well, I think to your point as well, because I feel this a lot with Ninja Turtles, is that, you know, there were shows, but for some people, the toys were the main, those vintage toys were the primary. Yeah. Like I said, I'm like that with Turtles, for sure. And with like Masters of the Universe, you know, with the actual toys. So to be able to draw those into, you know, a release like this via the accessories, I think these are actually going to be, I think you're probably hearing from the people more who aren't sure about what they are, but you've got a very satisfied large majority of vintage toy fans that are very glad to see these included.
Well, I like to hear that. So, yeah.
Well, cool. All right, Red Ranger, he's leading the way, but he is not the only Ranger in this assortment, because we also have the Pink Ranger. So let me go ahead and click on over to her. And once again, it's the second female, I guess the third and fourth female, if we're talking actual characters, as far as the female Rangers go, because this comes, you know, she comes with the two likenesses of the, you know, two different actresses that actually embodied the Pink Ranger in the show, right?
Right. And we were fortunate enough to be able to collaborate with Catherine Sutherland, Kat herself, to reveal this on social media, which was pretty awesome.
That's really
that
cool.
Was a pretty strange email to get. I was like, oh, like Kat's sending me an email. This is what's happening right now. This is real life.
Yeah.
Amazing. So such a cool collaborator, such a nice lady. So I'm very excited that we were able to get her involved.
Well, it's cool to collaborate on stuff like that too, but then also, I mean, that's gotta go to like your very soul when, you know, someone who lived that character quite literally is interested and likes to see what you guys are working on, right?
Yeah, I mean, their approval means the most, right? It's them. Yeah. So it's very cool. It's very it's a unique experience that I'm still trying to handle.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And you know, obviously both of the non-helmeted heads, you know, the characters, the actresses, they had hair of a certain length, and you can already tell that, you know, the building those into where the shoulders fall and everything has been taken into account here. So that's cool. Now, I recognize and I'm familiar with, you know, like the primary, you know, the energy bow type things and whatnot, but you're going to have to help me out here a little bit with this, because my mind goes to rhythmic gymnastics, but for someone who appreciates Power Rangers, but has more of not maybe a little bit deeper than layman's knowledge of it, this one still escapes me. So let's talk about this for all the dunderheads like me out there.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, that is the Power Ribbon. People might recognize it just because some of the earlier episodes, might even just only one time, Kimberly uses it to wrap a monster up, and then she shoots it with a bow. I can't think of the specific monster because, like I said, that monster has been lost to oblivion, as I now remember something else, right?
Because you remember this, you can't remember the monster, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's also, I believe there's a similar weapon in some of the later, and maybe in the later movie. Again, I'm so overloaded at this point. It's hard to keep track of, and I apologize to everyone who's typing furiously right now about what it actually is. But yeah, it's another unique weapon for Pink Ranger that we hadn't really seen included in any release.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure it was there. Right now it looks like it's sculpted, but the plan as of now, whatever day it is, you know, October, whatever, is for it to be soft goods.
Oh, cool.
So you can actually wrap it around whatever monster she's fighting.
Awesome. And you know, we've got the cat too, right?
PC. Yeah. PC the cat.
Yeah.
That is actually Cat. So Catherine.
Right. I did know that.
Okay, all right, that's good. She starts out as a cat, and then Rita turns her into a monster, and then she becomes good again, or normal again, and then she goes on to take up the mantle of the Pink Ranger after Kimberly goes to, I believe, the International Gymnastics Championships or something like that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, again, you know, lots of individual accessories, just like we've come to know. I want to jump over because we did talk about, you know, the Red Ranger and kind of, I think, the male Ranger articulation setup. And while the females seem to follow, you know, a lot of that same pattern, I'm interested to talk about kind of the torso, because they have more of that, I call it the floating rib cage joint here, right? Is that what I'm seeing here, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We typically refer to it as a diaphrame cut. Floating rib cage floating rib cage is a nice one, though. I like that. I haven't really heard that one before, so maybe we'll adopt that for internal discussions. But yeah, so it's a 2 ball joint system. So one up here in the diaphrame and the rib cage, and then one again down
here in the belt. Okay, that was my next question. Cool.
All kinds of range of motion. I can hear my friends on the internet making fun of me for doing all of this.
Well, you know, you're doing it, and you know, if you're gonna get those, I think, especially if this is gonna be soft goods, I mean, to get that, you know, convincing pose, those are important joints.
Exactly, that's right. Internet, don't make fun of me for acting it out. That's never gone well, asking the internet to not make fun of anybody.
I know that.
But yeah, so while it's very similar in articulation scheme to the male Rangers, it is just different enough to help kind of maintain the female aesthetics that we're trying to keep, like that people sort of expect from our Ultimates line. You know, Chitara, I think Tila had a similar setup, Sorceress, that kind of stuff. So
cool. And so skirts are very nice for being able to, you know, obscure joints as well, but I'm sure there are people who are wanting to make sure that, you know, skirt pieces that cover joints can also inhibit them if they're not the right material, right? So I'm sure that's something under consideration too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be the same low durometer or soft plastic that is on the underwear pieces for the males, but there are also slits on both sides.
Up here, over here?
Yeah, on the sides, but there's like a slight overlap to them. So your aesthetics are maintained when they're in a neutral position and they kind of cover each other up, but then you'll be able to pull them apart and have her do her high kicks and all the fun Ranger posing that you want.
Now, because you were talking about how they're split up the side to accommodate that, this is the first time it's jumped into my head, but I guess it could be applicable to all the Rangers. Are their holsters permanently affixed, or are those pieces going to be able to pop on and off?
For as of right now, the plan is to have them be permanently affixed, but low durometer.
Okay.
So you're not snapping it every time you put a blade blaster inside of it, and it'll get out of the way if you need to do your high kicks and stuff.
Right. So. Okay. Cool. Well, obviously, once again, here's that you know, glamour shot, and this is. I think of all of the series 2, you know, poses. This one's the most, I don't know, iconic or indicative of the character, right? This is how I think of the Pink Ranger if she doesn't have her helmet on.
Yeah, just excited and you know, ready to cheer everybody on and you know, have fun with her friends, and definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, and of course the packaging does have its own kind of flourishes for the character, obviously because of the coin, but being able to pull, you know, the whole team together in that common aesthetic, it's you're already talking me into keeping them, so here we go.
Oh, I thought you were already on board. This is a sales meeting.
Well, I mean, it's easy for me to say when I'm talking about Turtles and Thundercats, right? But it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to do that with Power Rangers too, man.
Right. Well, you know, I'm still working on I guess I'm still working on both you and Robo, because apparently he's only in for our bad guys and our Zords, which, you know, come on, Robo, all in, bro.
Let me tell you something. He talks a big game, and I know that because we can smell our own when it comes to stuff like that. So
I can't.
We'll see how that.
So
yeah. Okay, cool. So, obviously it's the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers line. It's important to have Rangers, but, and I appreciate them and I am very excited to assemble the team. But
Yeah.
we talk about getting into my aesthetic, and where I would kind of like to go to next is,
Sure.
I'm not going to make any bones about it. If we're talking about Power Rangers, we talked about it. I'm in it for the monsters, right?
Sure.
And just because they're so awesome and insane. And Goldar was kind of the logical one for series one, I think. And King Sphinx, I think you guys could have gone in a lot of directions on this, but so I'll just ask, what made King Sphinx the choice for series two?
Sure. Mostly because we all sort of like him. I like him a lot. He's one of my favorites, and he's kind of a favorite among some of the other designers as well.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and watching those older episodes, I used to think that him and Goldar were brothers. So
I can see that.
When we were kind of line planning, I was like, well, you have to have his brother next. That's I know that they're not brothers. I have since learned this. Nobody yell at me about that. But
yeah.
For he's just a cool looking dude. And I always sort of liked Egyptian mythology too.
Yeah.
But it was mostly the brother relationship that doesn't exist that made me want to go with that guy.
That is, to me, that is I'm not going to say it's more quaint. It's much more meaningful, and I appreciate the fact that he was chosen for series two for that reason more than any other like logical one that you could have floated. So I'm glad you shared that with us.
Yeah.
Well, so this guy was going to be the highlight for me for series two, no matter what, I think. But there are a couple of things going on here that I absolutely want to touch on.
Sure.
And that is that knowing you and knowing your affinity for Godzilla and
Sure.
kaiju and the whole Toho thing that you might have some professional interest in as well. The thing that really strikes me about this King Sphinx, and I mean this in an extremely complimentary way, is that the design and the aesthetic of him is very much man in suit.
Yeah.
And I love that because I've had to go back and do some research and look at some other King Sphinx figures of, before. None of them, I think, really went that way. So let's tell us about it, because you can't tell me that you weren't doing that intentionally, right?
Yeah, I guess guilty as charged. For me, the monsters, like as much as I want them to look cool, they they're a seamless monster. Like as I was relearning the brand, rewatching everything, what I realized is that the true charm is in the sort of suitmation aspects of the whole series.
100%.
So we wanted to recreate that as much as possible, and there's also just a level of accuracy that you have to have in any Ultimates line. So there was a distinct crossroads we could have gone of, let's make it look cool, make it look right, and
there's some bubbliness to it, and it's like I need to touch the screen because it feels like it looks like it looks great, and it looks like a character, but at the same time it's got that, oh, if I touch it, it's going to feel like there's some foam underneath there, right?
Yeah. He looks appropriately doughy.
Doughy. That's right. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about that, because it's not a small detail, but I think it's probably going to be overshadowed by the fact with this figure in particular is that, I'm just going to say it, man, the paint work right now is just fucking bonkers. All right. I can't believe the wings, and again, to the original suit, the highlights and whatnot. But I mean, tell me that like this deco wing's already like keeping you up at night thinking about pulling it all together, right?
Yeah, it's no small feat, that's for sure. But at the same time, like we were talking about, like we can do it how we think it should look, or we can do it how it's supposed to look, and this was about the way it was supposed to look. And there's some pretty interesting reference on this guy, and that it feels like as they were shooting it, in the Japanese footage, and then later in the American footage, like one production design team like did one thing, and then another one like would take spray paint and like do more stuff to it and then send it back, and then like there's like 3 or 4 versions of this guy you can find reference on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like in varying levels of like paint, and you know, whether the wings are painted or not, or whether or not the skirt is painted, and all this kind of stuff. And so we just because he's so such a fun looking character, we decided to just take it to 11 on him, probably at the cost of my own sanity, but I think it's very much going to be worth it, especially at the scale that he's at, which is, you know, the massive 8 inches. The wings are gonna, you know, I think the wings alone are like 5.5 inches tall, which is,
well, it's easy for me to it's easy for me to sit on the other side of the screen right now and say, yes, sir, all of your blood, sweat, and tears are going to make it very worth it for us. But I know you're saying that also as a fan too. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's talk about that, because, you know, you were getting ready to go in on the wings here a little bit. Now, we talked about Ranger articulation because I think of it more as standard. And it's actually clear to see, you know, on their mostly monochrome costumes. But with a guy like King Sphinx, there's a lot of places to hide things, and you know, he's got these other textures and muscles. So can we kind of go through a rundown of what we're going to expect as far as articulation goes with this guy?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, the wings are on ball joints.
Mm-hmm.
One of his signature attacks is he like does this like chicken move, and his wings flap, and he blows the monsters away, or the Power Rangers away.
Yeah.
So he'll be able to do that, his little chicken move, and
with the alternate head to go with it, right?
Yeah, and that was the alternate head was a little bit of the, you know, about the like, it should look like this, or it should look right. The head on the body is the one that's right, because that face actually never moves.
Mm-hmm.
But we, you know, to add a little bit more character to it, we decided to give him the even angrier face. You know, I stub my toe face.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit more fun in display and photography and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So all kinds of options.
So ball jointed wings.
Ball jointed wings, ball jointed at the neck and the head. So we'll be able to look up a little bit. The headdress will be soft, but it'll be a little bit thicker, so it might kind of get in the way, but you should still be able to get, you know, the looking up in all the range you want.
Mm-hmm.
The shoulder pads are attached to the torso. So you get your full arm movement without any hindrance there.
And are those biceps cuts up there at the shoulders?
They are, yeah. Bicep swivel there.
Okay.
Single joint elbows, and then the interchangeable hands. Right?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of hard to see, but
I think I see it right there.
You already caught it. Yeah, you're getting ahead of me here. That there's that floating rib cage is what you called it, right? There, and then another ball joint at the waist as well, so you get that double ball torso system.
Cool.
As well. His skirt will be that soft plastic, so that won't get in the way at all. You can see the ball joints at the thighs there, and that's the thigh swivel.
Now is that the same style of thigh swivel that's hidden on the Rangers too?
Yeah, it's going to look a lot like that, where the ball joint is inside of the thigh, and then it rotates.
Okay. Cool.
And that the single joint knees, and then the generous angle pivot again on those feet, so you can get those dynamic poses. And then there's a ball joint at the tail too, so you can pose that however you want.
Cool. Well, you know, I often go to like Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. To me, when a very large and bulky figure is able to articulate and pose well, that to me is always more impressive even than like the little skinny guys that can go crazy. So it sounds like this is you're working in that vein with this guy, that he's going to be, you know, one of the bigger figures in the line, at least thus far, right? But it sounds like this guy's going to be able to move.
That's always the plan. I mean, we had the same we had the same struggle with his brother Goldar in Wave 1 a little bit, where he's so big and he's so massive, but he needs to be able to do all of these cool commanding poses and stuff. And I think you can see it. We had a bit of fun in the glamour shot with him which kind of shows off his articulation. So you can see you can grab
Yeah.
it with the staff with 2 hands, and look at that beautiful 2-joint system in the torso working together, so you can get that nice like wind up, right?
Turning at different angles. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the staff you mentioned, I mean, obviously he was going to come with that, and he's got some swappable hands, but I'm assuming that this, card or box or whatever we're going to call it, this is a standard size. Is this the same size as the Rangers?
It will likely be closer to the Bebop and Rocksteady boxes.
Okay.
Just because he is a little bit larger. He is taller than them. The thing that I want to the thing that I want to make sure is clear to everybody. Can you scroll down to the very, very bottom real quick?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not there. There's usually a little disclaimer that there it is. Final figure may vary. That's what we're looking for. These, especially these packaging shots, we'd like to be transparent. These are not real. These are approximations of what this will look like. It's especially important to remember that when we get into the Dragonzord. And we can talk about them when we get to it. But these larger guys, it's, if you have other characters who are 8-inch scale or 8-inch size, but still that ultimate scale, you'll have a better idea of what those boxes may look like, just slightly larger.
Cool. And he fills up the box that he's going to be occupying quite well with,
That's us trying to fit him inside of the normal one. So that's why we got to give him the slight upgrade in room size.
Yeah. Well, cool. And of course his packaging matches thematically with the rest of them. Now with the Rangers, it's easy because obviously there are the coins to talk through. For someone though like King Sphinx, is this something that I'm just not knowing or just not remembering in terms of like this actual piece of art or icon for him, or is this something that you guys are kind of like putting your own?
Yeah, you're not missing anything. With these are an invention of our own, kind of like the turtles manhole covers on all of them. There's the power coins, which are so iconic to all of the Rangers and the good guys and stuff, but the bad guys didn't really have that. So we decided to what's the opposite of a circle? A square.
Yeah.
So pointy things are bad and that kind of logic. So these are kind of our power, the evil power coins, if you will.
Well, and the art adapts well because it's still stylistically faithful to the coins, but it's obviously King Sphinx, so that's another cool effect on that. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, what else? Anything else about aside from the revelation that he's Goldar's brother that we learned during this?
That not canon. Nobody, please do not update the Ranger wiki after this. Though that would be pretty cool. But no. Interchangeable hands. The wings can move. He's going to be ginormous.
Here's something that I wasn't able to call out or see from there, but calling it out on here. So he's going to have both the vertical and the horizontal hinges. Those are really important, especially with staffs and swords, I think, to get all those poses down, right?
And guns too. So the Rangers all have the 2 versions of the gripping hand. So when they're aiming, their blade blasters or the power blaster or whatever, they're ready to use the vertical hinge or the horizontal.
Awesome.
So.
Cool. All right. Well, like I said, this is the series slot that is always the most exciting for me. So I'm very glad to be, adding this King Sphinx with his bonkers paint scheme. I can't wait to kind of see how that's going to keep going as we move through the process. But let me ask you, and I probably should have done that when we had the larger picture up. Now this is gold on the wings, right? That's not just yellow, right?
There's going to be a slight metallic to that.
Cool.
And then the red that's on the base of the feathers, there's gonna be a light kind of wash on the back of the wings in that color as well.
Cool.
So
Cool.
it's not full color on the back, it's just kind of the single, but that's as accurate as we can make it to that original costume.
Awesome. Well, very, very excited about this one. Now, he's the enemy that I would most look forward to, but I know the majority of most self-respecting Power Rangers fans, in terms of villains go, Rita Repulsa. This is a big one, I think, not only because of the importance of the character, but how long fans have been. There's not a whole lot of Ritas out there in the plastic world, right?
Yeah, I think there's only, I mean, there's the original Bandai one that was shown in magazines and even on the show, but then never made it because the prototype was stolen from the show.
Wow.
And then I think there was one during early 2000s, like one of the ninja seasons. I can't remember. They did a pretty interesting looking set in like the 5-inch scale, and then I think there was a recent Lightning Collection one or the 2-pack as well. So yeah, I mean, you can count on one hand how many Reader figures are actually out there.
Well, there's a lot to unpack with the character design, the character itself, and also all of the accessories. I know that her accessories, more than anybody else in this series, have definitely caught my eye. But let's talk about the figure first, because she is one that is, if I'm trying to, I mean, in the Ultimates line, we've seen, several characters with soft good capes and things like that now, but as an overall primary piece of costume, she really has probably, at least proportionately, more soft goods than just about anybody we've seen so far, right?
Yeah, I think that's correct in terms of yards of fabric. Yeah, definitely the most. Just that whole dress encompasses the entire body, which it's not a cape, it's it's actual clothing, right? It's very similar to another character that I'm very, very fond of.
Yes.
Yes,
the Papa himself.
That's right. We may have learned a few things from that soft good that we're going to be applying to this one as well.
Well, and like him, I would assume, generally you talk about what you're seeing on a screen, but let's talk about what we're not seeing on the screen here, right? Is that, yes, she's mostly soft goods, with the exception of some pointy goods, I guess, as well. But I mean, are we talking standard Ultimates kind of articulation scheme underneath?
Yeah, it'll be very similar to the Pink Ranger body. In fact, it's extremely similar. There are some new sculpt details, like she has her signature kind of ankle boots, and I think she has some new leg parts as well, just because there's some footage from the original Japanese footage where she's riding her signature. She has this giant tricycle. It's like kind of like old school, like 1800s tricycle that she rides around, and she flies around on it actually. And there's very brief moments in that footage where she's pedaling and she pedals down, and the dress rides up, and you can see her entire like leg and ankle and what the shoes look like and stuff. This is the kind of stuff I have to go through.
I was gonna say, how was it getting those screen grabs?
Well, we luckily during halfway through this process, we started getting more help on research and that kind of stuff. So it's not, I don't have to do it alone anymore. But it has its moments of pausing, clicking, get the thing, so she has her signature. She has like these red ankle boots, and then some new leg sculpt as well. So it looks more like flesh rather than boots, because she doesn't wear boots. But then after that, she has new forearms too, because it's just like forearm here. But then everything else is very similar to the female body style that you've seen the other Rangers.
Cool. Now, on the actual dress itself, this looks like it's the gold is it looks like an applique rather than like stitching. I mean, have you gotten to that point yet as far as the development goes, or what's the plan
the
for that?
idea is that it'll probably be like an applique.
Mhm.
If we order now, if we get enough orders, we could probably do some sublimation printing, some nicer techniques on stuff like that. I think we will probably still wind up doing the sublimation printing just because appliques typically tend to peel off over time, right? So I wouldn't. It's not going to be embroidery though. That would be that is if it was embroidered, that's now $150.
Yeah, right.
It's the figure which no one would buy. So yeah.
Okay. Well, so she's not all fabric, right? What is represented in plastic, and we can talk about the heads here in a second, because this is obviously the iconic Rita head. But I mean, for a character who's mostly draped in a brown cloth dress,
in a brown paper bag, yeah.
well, I mean that is what it is. But
yeah,
when you get to the parts that aren't, and I'm talking about like her wrists and hands and her collar and her, her headband piece right here. I mean, you guys have got some, and even some of the line work in this area here. There's some pretty extreme and bonkers, line work and stuff going on here as far as paint's gonna go, right?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you look at Rita Repulsa on screen, she's just draped in kind of this lavish detail, and I think that's in addition to her fun and wacky voice, I think that's also part of what resonates with people in this character so much, is that every time you're looking at her, you're seeing something new, and there's some new shiny thing to look at, and really attracts the kids' attention, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, there are the lines, of course, but then I think what got me upon first seeing this was, I mean, the shading, the collar looks amazing. And I mean, that may be just a small detail that I picked up on in terms of the transition from the black to that very light blue. That's cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, all credit to the original costume designers. That's all there. And if you look at it, I will say that we split the difference a little bit on the collar. The Japanese version kind of has this like constellation sort of look to it. But we realized that Rita appears more on the show with this kind of Americanized triangle version, just because they ran out of Japanese footage pretty early on, and then they had the American costume, and they had an American actress come in and play Rita Repulsa with this similar collar and stuff. So as rad as the constellation one would be, I think people recognize this collar more just because of how many appearances it had on the show, and most of coloring books, stickers, blah blah blah, every piece of merch with her has this like the triangles, which to me that's what I think of, at least.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the heads then, because the one that's actually on the figure here right now, that expression, everything about it, I mean, that's what screams iconic Rita Repulsa. But we've got a couple of other ones going on here, so let's talk through those a little bit.
Someone told me that the head that is on the body is textbook images you can hear.
Yes. Yes.
I think that might be one of the better compliments I've received on this wave so far. So I guess the Kimberly in the room here is that is a Kimberly head that it will fit onto your Rita Repulsa body.
Nice.
Fans might remember or might not, but at one point, Lord Zed, when he first shows up, he kicks Rita to the curb. He puts her back in the space dumps her and launches into space, because he's the only evil emperor. But as it happens when you're the evil lord of destruction and everything that he sees, right? You get lonely. You don't have, you can't share that kingdom with anybody. What's the point, right?
Yeah.
So at one point he goes about it incorrectly, but he decides to try and make himself a new bride, and he chooses Kimberly. So Goldar, Babu, and Squat kidnap Kimberly and dress her up as Rita Repulsa and try and cast a spell on her. It doesn't work, but Goldar, being the bumbling idiot that he is, thinks that it works, and so Kimberly plays it up, and Amy Jo Johnson does an incredible Rita Repulsa impression, and steals the show, and bonks Goldar on the head and runs away.
Yeah.
So very, very deep cut moment, but one that's obviously stuck with me, and other people too, I think. So
awesome. And then I've been calling this one, and it's complimentary. This is the Michael Scott head for me, because you know that where he like puts on his brave face, and it's used across so many memes. It's like I'm already seeing the opportunities with this, but there's got to be something more to that, obviously, right?
And that was another thing, is that we call this the headache head, because every time the monster blows up, she goes, "You're giving me a headache," and she puts her hand like this, and she looks so pained. But I think this face, for me, when I'm collecting figures, I look for those facial expressions that are slightly different than the happy or the angry or the yelling. Give me a little bit more range to it, because you get your yelling happy one with Rita on the main body, but she usually loses most of the time, so she's probably not stoked about it, and that's why we went with the headache head here. So.
Awesome. Okay, well, cool. Just past the heads, though, I mean, let's face it, Rita runs away with the accessories, I think, in this assortment. So we've got the multiple heads, we've got the interchangeable hands, and I mean, we can look at the list actually here in a second, but the staff is obviously the iconic one, right? The iconic accessory here.
Magic wand, make my monster grow. That's the line. So those will be just like on the bracelets, those will be real chains.
Awesome.
That'll hang down. So there's chains on the bottom of her bracelets that'll
right here.
Yep. And then the on the staff too. So.
Cool. All right. Well, we have that. Let's jump over here then, and talk about this over here.
What do you think that's called officially in canon? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Golden candelabras.
No.
Candlesticks.
You're thinking too hard. That's called the green candle.
Yeah, there you go.
Kid show.
Yeah.
So that's a candle that Rita has that is tied directly, that's tied directly to the Green Ranger's powers. So the Green Ranger coin, it was Rita's coin, and Green Ranger is her. So a lot of her accessories are tied into Green Ranger in episodes where she's trying to get the Green Ranger power back. Yeah. So there's the green candle. When the green candle burns out, Tommy's powers go away forever. That's kind of thing. So Tommy has to go to the Moon Palace and put the candle out and that kind of stuff.
Well, cool. And then we've got we've got these three bits over here, and at least these two I recognize. But let's start with the Crunk Chalice.
I mean, it's not what it is, but it in the rare occasions where Rita has a victory over the Power Rangers, you'll see that she Babu or Squatter or whoever will hand out drinks to everyone in the Moon Palace, and they'll cheers, and they'll drink the demise of Earth, right? So as
supervillains do.
Exactly. So she comes with that so she can party it up. The accessory to the right there, though, that is the green crystal. Similarly to all of the Power Rangers, they have their power crystals, which they use to power their Zords and stuff. All of ours come with it. This is Green Ranger's crystal, and again, it's tied to his powers, and she's trying to get them back, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
So another cool inclusion.
And this will be translucent green.
Yeah. So the drink glass will be clear with like the red painted on the inside, and then it'll be a nice translucent green plastic, just like the actual prop was. And then to the right of that, that's the love potion, which she uses on Lord Zed. When she comes out of the space dumpster, she uses it to make him fall in love with her, and they get married.
I love that the love potion is denoted with the heart on the top. I mean,
It's you don't want to mix it up with your death potion.
Exactly.
It's the exact same color and shape, but it's got a little skull on top of it, right? So
okay, well, those those are all, you know, those are cool accessories, but holy crap, man. Then we I mean, how are we getting all of this? How are we getting all this together in one box now?
Very, very carefully. We again, this is one that the packaging team, I got a very specific message that was like, hey, does the telescope come apart? And I was like, nope.
Yeah.
God damn it, Kyle. So yeah, the Repulsa scope.
Yeah.
You know, similar like we were talking about with Pink Ranger and accessories that we don't think we've ever seen anybody come with. Like Rita's never come with the Repulsa scope, and every episode you see her looking through it, spying on the Rangers and how to defeat them. So it felt like a very important one to include.
Yeah, it is, especially since, you know, it's what, at least 3/4 of the size of the figure itself, right?
Probably, yeah. It's actually probably more than that. It's the hair is what's throwing you off.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. I mean, there it is. It's like right up at the shoulders, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So there'll be some clear plastics in the orb there, and then some nice gloss plastics on like the lenses and stuff.
And will this have some articulation built into it as well?
Yeah, I think at least the top will be able to swivel.
Okay.
So
okay.
You won't be able to like aim it up and down, but it will be able to turn.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Now she has a very different glamour shot, but yeah, I mean, how could you not get this incorporated into that, right?
I mean, she hardly ever goes to Earth. She's always hanging out in her moon palace.
Yeah.
You know, so it was this was the one. This was the render. I'm excited about all of them. Obviously, I love how they all look. But this was for sure the one that I saw the walls, I saw the cogs, I saw the lighting, and I was like, oh, damn,
yeah,
this one is special. I mean, they're all special, but this one was the one that I was like, okay, this way is going to be something pretty incredible. So I was very excited.
Cool. Yeah, because I mean, why go to Earth when you can like hang out in the moon palace? So
your own palace on the moon, I would never leave.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, here she is, obviously in the packaging. And again, that team, as you spoke to, not only do they do cool design work, but pulling this off is going to be a big high five moment too. So good luck to them.
Yeah, again, all packaging images are approximations.
Right.
They're gonna sort of look like this, but it'll probably be. She might need a slightly larger box with the telescope and
thicker like slide or something like that,
just
right?
the hair too, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then again, much like King Sphinx and what Goldar before him, then kind of her own little signature piece on the box to play off the coin theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, well, let me go back to this just to make sure I didn't miss anything in terms of accessories and whatnot. I specifically look at these ahead of time, but I'm glad that I thought maybe green candle was a little bit more of a generic term to put on here, but I'm glad to hear that my imagination got the best of me in terms of putting a name around it, and it's just very straightforward.
I try and put the most specific name on these lists as possible, because I know that people appreciate that those naming conventions.
And I must say that this is, if I had my own action figure, I would probably need a headache head to come with mine too. So I feel that, Rita. I really do. All right. Well, cool. So that takes us through 4. And Power Rangers is known as one of the Ultimates line that, as a general rule, is a 5-figure assortment rather than a 4-figure assortment. And that is because, at least for the first 2 assortments, there's a Zord included as well. And this time it's the Dragonzord, which has got to be a pretty important one to you, right?
The mighty Dragonzord, that is correct. He, as close to Godzilla as they could get without copyright infringement.
Well,
Very
thematically, obviously, he carries over a lot from series one in terms of the Zords, with some of the inclusion with the little Ranger to go with it, and then the coin too. But I mean, alone, Dragonzord wins because missile fingers, man.
That's right, missile fingers, and they are missile fingers. Not lipstick fingers, Robo.
Well, dang it, you shouldn't have said that, because I wasn't even thinking that. Now I'm gonna that's gonna be, oh yeah, lipstick finger.
Can't unsee. He's got a nice manicure on top. No, they're missile fingers for sure. So it's one of his signature moves. So it's very important to put that in there. And again, it's a piece of that character that I had never really seen done before. So we wanted to include it for that reason. So
and yeah, you can see them, pre-shot in this hand, but these are going to be a couple of pretty bonkers hands, right?
Yeah, I think just size wise, they're going to be like this big or so.
Wow.
So
wow.
Yeah, very very excited to put that. The engineering team is like saw those and was like, you know how big those tools are going to be, right? And I was like, yeah.
Man, this assortment is really bringing out all the love from all the different teams to this time around, right?
As possible, No, it's great. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's again, nobody's done it. Nobody made what we wanted, so we made it ourselves. Nobody made Missile Finger, Nick. So
people get better through challenge. So you're doing everyone favors here with packaging and engineering, right? Okay. Well, speaking of engineering, because we talked about series one a few months ago, but I don't think we really got into it. And obviously Zords are very different figures than any of the other figures in the assortments, just by nature of what they are and their design, which is extremely ornate and more mechanical and geometric. But can we kind of decipher really what the articulation scheme is going on here? Because some things seem to be a little obvious, but then I'm sure there's a lot that's not, right?
Yeah. Well, what's that? What are these obvious ones you're thinking?
Well, I mean, I'm talking like things like wrists with hinges, like that, and I would kind of guess that the knees would be kind of the ultimate single knee as well. And I'm going to bet that you probably get a pretty good range of motion with the ankles down here. But then, after that, I'm kind of like, I need some help here.
For sure, yeah. So I mean, you're right on the money there with the wrists and the ankles and the knees and stuff. His jaw won't be able to move, so he can do his signature roars and stuff. There's a ball joint at I guess their shoulders, whatever his forearm pieces are. And again, this whole aesthetic of the Zords kind of follows that man in suit sort of look we're trying to hit. So he'll also, so he has these ball joints here, so he can kind of move them around a little bit. And then, but he also has a ball joint right at the waist there. So he, one of the signature things that the Dragonzord does is when he, roars in victory, he like goes back and does this kind of thing. So you'll have that whole range of motion there as well. A little bit of thigh swivel there and ball joints down there, so you get a little bit of motion. Obviously his like big blocky nature kind of hinders that a little bit, but if there's room to move, we'll let you move.
What about in the hips?
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about. So there'll be like that ball joint there, and then there's a swivel inside of that too. So those big blocks will probably get in the way a little bit.
Sure.
But they did in the cardboard suit that the guy wore too.
Right,
so.
exactly. Exactly. This is one of those examples that even with some limitations to the articulation due to the design, the figure will probably move better than the human was able to on the actual show, right?
Exactly. That's the goal, is that the figure moves better than the actual figure. So like you said, on the knees, singles, and then the nice ankle pivot on the feet there. You'll probably notice it's kind of hard to see from this 3/4 angle, but there's a ball joint at every single section of the tail.
Yeah, I was going to ask because I can tell it here.
Yeah. You can move that thing all over the place.
Wow.
Every segment is jointed with a ball. And so you can pose it in all kinds of crazy stuff, because that's, again, one of his signature moves is he does tail whip and that kind of stuff. And then other signature moves, he's got his drill. So that's on a rotating joint, so you can, spin it. His tail drill.
Yeah. And the ball joint, does that include at the base too? Yep. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think packaging is gonna, they asked me if they could like sling it over his shoulder so he can fit in the box better. I was like, no.
well, that's the logical thing that I was going to move to next is that, so we talked about King Sphinx kind of in that 8-inch figure. Well, whereabouts, especially now with, I think, as you said, series 1 kind of further along in the process, whereabouts are the Zords hitting in terms of actual, height?
Yeah, so very similar scale, if not the exact same scale as the monsters. So like a little bit taller. And that was always something that was important to us, is you all, at the end of every episode, you have that showdown between the Zord, whichever one it is that week, and then the monster, because they both grow up to Zord height and they fight. So Tyrannosaurus Dinozord is that 8-inch scale that will match Goldar, will match King Sphinx. And Dragonzord is no different. I think he's a little bit taller because he's got that big old head blade. So I think he's closer to 9 inches because of that thing.
Okay.
But yeah, so the Zords and the monsters are truly in scale with each other, so that you have those iconic clash moments.
Well, I mean, that's, happenstance because of what went on in the show, but being able to pull essentially 2 scales right into one line, especially as you said with the monsters, that's a really cool thing to be able to do. And I think that's something that when people were curious as to what the actual height and scale of the Zords were, that's the little piece of logic that people, I think, need to hear, right?
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it's that, and that's the thing, is that where I'm designing these things, we're designing these things like because we want them on our shelves too. So I have a whole display planned for all of these, and then it includes buying a little miniature guarded like Angel Grove, and with the Zords and all that stuff, and having the monster showdown with like a team of Zords and all that stuff, because we're in it for the long haul on these guys. We're going deep. So.
Yeah. So buy more shelves, right?
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. You definitely look like you could use some more shelves. Yeah. Actually, you look like you could use some more figures. There's a giant empty space right behind your left side there.
Back there. Yeah, that's I don't know if that's gonna have to go, because I've got Thundercats kind of built in to the Masters display, because I think like a lot of people, they go hand in hand, but I don't know if I'm gonna have to use that as more Thundercat space, or if I'm gonna finally be able to get some of my Mega Constructs, He-Man stuff into there. So I
no, all of that is the wrong answer. The correct answer is I'm going to put my Power Rangers Ultimates there, Kyle. There we go.
Those are going behind where you can't see, with like the Ninja Turtle Ultimates and stuff like that. So
where no one can see your shame for you're hiding your fandom of Power Rangers. I see.
No way, man. I talked to Brian a couple of weeks ago, and I was set up on that side, so I got room to grow over there at least, right? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, this, I mean, we talked about, in the first one, as far as like these shots being very, reminiscent of the show, but this is the one that really puts it over as far as that goes. So this is a fun, this is a fun glamour shot for sure. And I love the action piece of, the missile fingers, but also it's illustrated the limitation of the actual suit with how he has to stand in order to do that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, you can also see that ball joint's at work there. You get a better shot at what the thigh swivel as well in there, and how
the tail's turned around in this shot from
the tail's turned, and the ankles, the feet are flat on the floor. Like, this guy's gonna be able to move, and I'm very excited for people to get their hands on him.
Cool, cool. Well, here's that beloved packaging shot that I'm sure is keeping some very nice people up at night already. But he's gonna
Oh
be
no,
the
they're plenty nice. I'm the person who's not nice. And it was like the tail needs to stay attached. So I don't know. For me, that's always bugged me. It's like, you finish assembling it, and it's like that's not what I'm paying you for. I want the figure complete. I understand there's limitations on packaging and shipping and all that stuff, and maybe I'm a masochist, but I would like my figure complete, please. So once again, this will be the approximation of how it'll fit in the box. I think we are making a custom die line just because he's so large with his tail. We will see.
Well,
final figure may vary. There we go.
There it is. But I think it's probably safe to assume that you don't want to be dropping this packaging on your toe at this point, because
no, he's gonna be a big boy.
Yeah. Cool. And then obviously this is the coin, the coin that he's included with, right?
Yeah, the Dragonzord coin.
Yeah.
I think it's the exact same image we have for Green Ranger, because
Yeah.
it is the coin that he uses to morph with.
So well, that's fun to like put that packaging together and see that pull through. So that's a lot into a fifth slot that is necessary, but I mean, this to me feels like it's really the footprint to follow, at least for the first handful of waves, because I mean, we're probably not talking about things and getting ahead of ourselves here, that getting all the Zords done is a very important priority for this line, right?
It's the goal for sure. It's about, because there's so many iconic ones. I mean, there's this one, there's the T-Rex Zord, which we've already solicited. I mean, there's one that starts with an M that's probably very likely to come down the pipeline. There's some Tiger Zords. There's a Dragonzord that's not this Dragonzord that I'm talking about. There's a couple of dragon shaped Zords that could be out there. There's so much material to pull from just for the Zord category alone. We probably could have done a line of Zords on their own, but we wanted to include it with the Rangers because they're so tied together.
Right. Well, awesome. I appreciate having gone through and talking and talked about all five of the characters or the figures on their own, but just so I can have a nice excuse to pull up this this group shot here, in terms of kind of your thoughts, or kind of the overall prevailing piece from your perspective as far as series 2 goes. What else should what would you like to get out there, or kind of talk through not only series 2 on its own, but the progression from series 1, right?
Yeah. We're learning, again, like we were saying, to make sure that this new body type works, it hits the poses we want. I mean, look at that. That's one of Red Ranger's iconic poses. I call it the air quotes pose. But that is the thing. And like, I don't think we had envisioned how good this could look when he started designing it, especially with the soft goods and the posing and the lighting and the colors. We realized that the format of pre-ordering and then waiting for a good chunk of time to get them in your hands is not for everybody, but we found that it is ultimately worth the wait, just because it allows us to have the time and the resources to make these the best figures that we can possibly make.
Yeah. Well, very cool, man. Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Ultimates Series 2 are available for pre-order now at super7.com. And those pretty much go through the end of October, right? I think.
Correct.
I can check that for sure here, just to make sure that I'm talking about this correctly. But the
November 11 is when it ends.
Okay.
I believe.
So the point is that it's time to get your pre-orders in.
That's right.
Series 2. to
That's
go
right.
along with your Series 1, and then, have that done so that we can see where Series 3 takes us, so we can be back here talking about that in
Right.
a few months' time, right?
Series 3 and beyond.
All right.
There's a lot of good stuff. There's still so many Rangers we haven't even touched just from Mighty Morphin alone.
Yeah.
And so many monsters and so many other iconic villains and set pieces and Zords and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
So,
and that's something that I can definitely appreciate about the property itself. And yeah, I might be more of a homer with Ninja Turtles or Thundercats, but all three of those, they have very, as you said, a rich tapestry of not only iconic characters, but just bonkers, off the wall, and very fan favorite characters too, which really makes a line like Ultimates even more fun, because there's a place for characters like that in a line like this, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always going to want to go to to those characters that often get overlooked, who are beautiful in their own right. I mean,
Yeah.
just look at what we've done with Thundercats. I mean, who else made a Captain Cracker?
Yeah.
No one, right? I mean, LJN, but that's not
Right.
the point. So we want, there's still so many characters that, I mean, we haven't even gotten to. Our reaction line is probably a good indication of where some of that stuff could be going. Just because obviously you can bust out a lot more characters quickly, just because the production process is a little bit faster and a little bit more inexpensive.
Right.
But I see that where I think we're 2 waves in there and we have 12 characters, and it's like it feels like a full shelf already.
Right.
And we're going into many waves on that too, and that roster's going to fill up very, very quickly. And I really, really am excited to see that become a reality for Ultimates as well.
Yeah. Well, cool. I can't. I'm looking forward to continuing going on that adventure with you guys. But thank you very much for coming back on the FwooshCast and joining us, Kyle. Always appreciate it. Always enjoy the conversation, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to do this again sometime soon. All right.
Yeah, just give me a call. You know how to get me. I'll be here.
Absolutely. Well, Kyle, thank you very much for joining us. Really look forward to Series 2, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Ultimates, and we will catch you next time that we can have another Super 7 times FwooshCast special. So until then, man, keep up the good work. I know you're going to stay busy, but we'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Thanks,
All
man.
right.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Cool.
Bye.